Welcome back to another video, and in today's video I want to talk about some of the most important things that I look for when I'm targeting crappie in creeks during the fall. Let's get into it. So I'm down here in Alabama, and this Alabama weather is just like this. It's just an emotional roller coaster. One day it might be 45 degrees, the next day it might be 95 degrees. Puts us in a funk, it puts these fish in a funk, and it just makes them really hard to try to locate or maybe even try to catch. Now, prior to the fall transition where these fish start moving, I was catching everything off pretty deep into that 25 to maybe 15 foot range and catching them pretty good on some offshore hums, offshore structure, and just tearing them up. Well, these past couple weeks, we've had like 45-degree weather temperatures to where these fish are definitely in transition. They're scooting up a little bit more shallow, maybe hitting the mouths of these creeks, maybe going in just a little bit, trying to find some sort of cover for that fall transition with their main location. And you know, a lot of the times, you know, we say that they're going into these creeks, they move a little bit more shallow, and the question is well, how do you know which creeks to fish? How do you know which pieces of structure to fish? And today I'm going to talk about some really important things that I look for when I'm fishing in these creeks. All right, so let's get into these creeks. What is the first thing that I typically do? The first thing that I do is pull out some sort of mapping. I'm out here on the Black Warrior River. I know the creeks that I'm going to fish. I fish Lake Tuscaloosa, but if I'm going to a new body of water, and this could work anywhere, if I'm going to a new body of water, I want to pull out some sort of mapping. It could be Navionics. It could be Lake Master. I have Humminbird, so I have the Lake Master app. It could be Google Earth, anywhere. Just overlook, do an aerial view, and what you're going to do is look for the largest creeks, the longest creeks. So now that you identified the longest creeks, you're probably like, well, my body of water got tons of creeks. It's got so many creeks, I don't know where to start. I don't know where to begin. So the most important thing about these creeks, and to understand this, is that you want a creek that parallels the body of water that you're fishing. So this river obviously runs north to south. When I go into that creek, when I start driving in it, I might go in to east way, I might go in the west way. But once I get around and I start to turn and I start going north, that north section of a creek, and what that's going to do, it's going to have such stable conditions, because a lot of that current and a lot of the wind and a lot of all these other crazy factors will not be able to stir that water up. So it creates a very stable environment for these fish to kind of stay at. You guys probably fished before to where you had a crazy rainstorm and your body of water is typically clear, maybe a little muddy, but then when you go out there that weekend or, you know, the day after, the water's like chocolate milk, and it puts those fish in a panic. They don't, you know, you can never really get them to bite. And the first thing that you usually do is look for stable water. You go in the backs of these creeks to try to find that clear, that clean water, stable conditions where the water temperature out there might be 76 and back here it might be, you know, 78, 79. And it's just way more comfortable for those fish. So find those creeks that are parallel and run up north to where nothing can really interfere with that water. Now that we narrowed some of those creeks down, we talked about the creeks that when you run in, they run kind of parallel and running up north to have more stability in the water. Now I'm looking for depth. So we got all these creeks. I'm going to start eliminating those shallow creeks, those 10, those 15, those 5s, those 7s, and I'm looking for the creeks that have depth. Depth, no matter what the weather conditions throw at these fish, depth will allow those fish to regulate their comfort zone way better. There's been times I fished creeks that were shallow, and I'd come back and I'd fish them, boom, the next day either a cold front or maybe a rain came, I come back to that spot and there's nothing there. They actually pushed out, they moved out completely. But when you have that depth, those fish can either pull out, they can drop, they can come back up, and they can get in that comfort zone to where those conditions do not affect them. They may push out, but they'll go back. They'll go right back to that piece of structure that they were holding at. So using those deeper creeks are going to be your best bet. Now, in the beginning of this video, I said there was an exception. So we said we're targeting longer creeks, the deeper creeks, the ones that have stable conditions, the ones that allow the fish to kind of regulate their comfort zone. Well, sometimes these creeks that I was referring to, you know, are good, but every once in a while, like we're in a small creek right now, I could probably make maybe 4 or 5 casts out of here, but it has deep water, It is actually facing upriver just a little bit. And this brings me to the third thing that I typically look for. Now, not all creeks will have this, but if they do, it's just a hidden gem. You can't see it, but I'm gonna record it on my phone and I'm gonna show you. But there is water coming in here. If you don't know this, shad, baitfish, they're attracted to nutrients. If you have water coming in, there's going to be bait around there because it stirs up the nutrients, it creates oxygen in the water, and it just, those bait fish thrive on that. I fish out here on the river and we have gates, we have generators, and a lot of the times when those generators are going or those gates are open, it stirs up everything, and everything that lives in this lake or everything that lives in the river is up there feeding on those shad, because that's where those shad migrate. So if you can find water coming into these longer creeks, these deeper creeks, or with the exception of these smaller creeks that have the same ingredients, you can catch some quality crappie. And like always, guys, I always appreciate you coming along. If you have a creek tip or a fall fishing tip, leave it down below. Let's help everybody out. I love giving you guys the information to help you guys out. Let's work as a team to help everybody out. So leave something down below, leave a comment down below. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. You want to see upcoming videos, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Guys, we're climbing up the YouTube channel. We just got monetized and it's all because of you. I appreciate y'all. Thank you. Continue to follow Bassn with Buddy, and I will see you next time. Peace.